So I'm working this flight. I want to say I'm going to Accra. And people were getting on, they were boarding, and this one woman had a huge bag, almost like a duffel bag, that she was trying to stick underneath the seat in front of her. And of course, the size of this bag was not only too big for underneath her seat, it was encroaching on the man's space next to her. And I saw it, and somebody already asked me if I could help her find a spot for her bag. So as I come over and I'm looking for space for her bag, and I see a space, and I said, okay, it should fit here. Because, we have to rearrange things like Tetris in order to make things fit. So as I'm finding a space for the bag, the man that's sitting next to her says something to me, says something rude to me. And I said, did you just insult me? And he goes, I absolutely did. I absolutely did insult you because your company has insulted me. And I said, oh, okay. Well, the only reason I'm even standing here is because I see there's a problem and I'm trying to make sure you and her both have legroom. I said, but if you want to sling insults, that's up to you. So no big deal. So I grabbed the bag, and another flight attendant helped me push it in the overhead bin and to rearrange the bag. And then I said, well, problem solved. And I walked away. So there was another gentleman who was watching the whole thing happen. And he said, wow, you handled that beautifully. I'd like to hire you for the company I work for. I said, well, I love my job. It has its ups and downs, no pun intended. But, this is part of the job. People like this are just not necessarily grateful. And he says, but that was very nice of you not to even react. I said, I don't know this man. And he doesn't know me. I said, at the end of this trip, I'm going to go back to my family who loves me, and all will be right with the world. So I'm just like, I don't take anything personally. He wasn't lashing out at me. He was lashing out at, as he said, the company. I don't even know what happened to him. And quite frankly, at this point, it doesn't matter. So during the flight later on, and I'm never rude to people who are nasty. I still keep the same energy that I brought on board with me. So when he wanted something, when it was time to do the beverage service, and I came down, sir, what would you like to drink? I was just as nice to him as I was to the people in the row in front of him, as I was to the people in the row behind him. And it only makes them feel worse, because then they realize that they were nasty for no reason. And he did get up and go back to the galley later and apologize for his behavior. I said, apology accepted, no big deal. And then he started telling me what all had happened to him that made him the way he was at the time. Not that that's even any justification, but either way, sometimes that just happens.